Drew Wagner here with XAircraft America. Today I'm going to talk about how to set up the SuperX as well as give you an overview of how it should be set up. You'll be able to kind of visually see what all the components do and also see how they work when put together on an actual quad. I'm also going to go over how to program the SuperX on the Futaba 8FG. It'll help you out with any radio you have, but it'll kind of help you out with getting started. So to start off, I'm going to go over the system overview of the SuperX. So in the box, you have your I/O unit, your LED light, your GPS and compass with the autopilot. You have a flight controller unit. This is what you use to plug a USB cable into your computer. It also comes with the battery lead, enough servo leads to hook up either through S-Bus like I have it here, or through a 7-channel traditional servo connection to your receiver. So everything on the SuperX kind of stems out of the I/O or the in and out unit. So from this unit you have your receiver hooked up, and if you use S-Bus you plug it into the X port. If you don't use S-Bus, this is aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, flight mode, safe mode, and your gain knob. So 1 through 4 are pretty self-explanatory. Your mode switch, you have 3 modes on the SuperX. You have manual mode, attitude mode, and GPS mode. Manual mode is what's going to be the kind of toughest to fly. Wherever you move the stick is where it's going to stay until you bring it back. With attitude mode, it'll self-level using the gyros on board. Once it does not hold its position though, because with wind or anything like that, it's going to move it. In GPS mode, it uses a combination of the GPS satellite as well as the gyros inside of the flight controller. And in that mode, it'll hold position in a location until you give it an input command from the controller. It'll move until you let go, and then it'll sit again. So here, like I said, I have this hooked up through S-Bus. S-Bus is a really nice protocol. You can either use it on the Free Sky with the Tyrannus or one of those radios, or with S-Bus with Futaba, like I have it set up here. The Futaba radios I love because it just makes this installation so much easier and cleaner. So from the I/O, you plug your motors into the M1. So the M1 wire will go into an ESC. The ESC will plug into your squid or your power distribution board, and then that will plug directly into your flight battery. Now the SuperX is a little bit unique because it actually takes a power source directly from your flight battery. So in the box is this battery lead here. It can accept anything from a 3S to 6S battery connection. You just plug it right in, it'll power up and work great. The LED light here, with the LED that lets you know what flight mode you're in and also gives you some system information about the controller. With those you have a fast green flashing light, and that'll be manual mode. You have a slow green flashing light, and that'll be attitude mode. And then you have either an alternating red and green, which will be a GPS mode, but it's actually attitude mode because GPS isn't locked, or it'll be a double flash green, which will give you GPS mode with satellites. And it'll go double green once it gets more than 7 satellites on board. This is kind of the brains of the operation here. This unit needs to be placed onto the center of the unit. And the center, when I say the center, that means the middle of where your arms are. So you just want to try to place that as close to the middle as possible and on a level surface. Make sure it's mounted well. It comes with a mounting pad that will allow you to put it down. If you use that, you shouldn't have any kind of vibration problems. When you're installing this unit, it's very important to make sure that the arrows on top of the unit line up with the arrows on the GPS puck. So you can see here, this arrow is pointing forward, this arrow is pointing forward. This is the front of the quad, and that's going to make it work well. So, to kind of go over what everything does here, this is your main flight control unit. This plugs into your I/O unit. The SuperX has these 4-pin connectors right here. There's 3 of these on board, and then 1 small one for the LED unit. With these, you can plug them into actually any port, and it won't make a difference. There's actually an extra port on board. You can use that for either our OSD, which it takes information from the flight controller to display on your screen, or in the future we're going to have a Wi-Fi module and some other things coming out that will be able to be used with that. This is your GPS unit and your compass. Both of them are located here inside of the flight controller puck. Inside of this little metal box is our autopilot. This is what controls the return to home function. The SuperX has an awesome return to home function, unlike any other controller I've seen so far, and that you're able to turn on and off the return to home action. So if you initiate a return to home and then halfway through decide, man, I'm going to hit a tree, or I didn't really plan for this, and I can control it again, you just flip the switch on your receiver, and it'll allow you to take control back, which is an awesome feature. So I think that's kind of everything. Should give you at least an idea of how this is hooked up. So now we'll take a look at our main controller here, and we'll kind of go over programming the SuperX once you've got it installed. So once you've got your build done, make sure that your M1 through M4, if you have a quadcopter, and it goes all the way up to M8, be sure if you're using an octocopter, M7 and M8 are actually a switchable port. So with that port, you can either have it set up so that it controls a servo gimbal or it controls an octocopter. So if you've got a ESC going in M7 and M8, make sure that it does not have a BEC on board. You'd have to use an opto ESC on that one, or it'll pass power through, and it may confuse the controller into thinking that you actually have a servo gimbal plugged in right there, which would not be a good situation. So on this machine here, I have the OSD plugged in. I have it hooked up to an FPV system. There's a lot of stuff you can kind of do with the controller, but I'm going to quickly show you, one, how to set it up on the radio, and then two, we're going to go over how to calibrate it and make sure that everything's going. It's a really easy 3-step process, and we'll go over it in just a second here. So when programming the SuperX on your, this is the 8FG, it works for any Futaba, and really the same principle should apply for any unit you're using. So you're going to go into your linkage menu by tapping the top right here. You're going to go into Model Select and make sure that you have airplane mode selected. All of these units need to use airplane mode. Once you have that finished, we'll go back into linkage menu once again by typing the linkage, and we're going to go into the function menu. And the function menu is where you set what knobs do what in this radio. So 1 through 4 should be set up correctly. If you notice, they're already named aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder. So this is AETR on the IO unit we talked about a minute ago. With SBus, it'll automatically put 1 through 7 correctly in this. So number 5 is going to be on SG, is what I use on my radio, which is this knob up here. It's a 3-position switch. Make sure that channel 5 is 3-position because this is going to be your flight mode switch. You're going to use this to flip between manual, attitude, and GPS mode. 6 is SF, which is a 2-position switch. This is what you're going to use to toggle return to home or safe mode. So on and off. And then finally, number 7 here is going to be the RD knob. I usually plug it in up here. This is going to control the gain on your copter. So with that, the higher you go, the better. Basically, turning it to the right is going to turn it up. Turn it to the left is going to turn it down. And I'll show you the reverses here in just a moment. Channel 8, I have this set up for the Stella. So I have channel 8 set up to my right slider, which is RS. I have channel 9 hooked up to LS, which is right here. And one thing that's kind of crazy about this radio, that's a bit of a pain to set up, is to make sure if you do try to change any of these, when it's first set up, you're just going to see a whole bunch of auxiliary 5s or auxiliary 1s or whatever the case may be. Make sure when you're switching that you change these so that each one of these are unique. And to do that, all you have to do is go in. So if you wanted to change auxiliary 3, you just choose auxiliary 3, and then you just go from there. It's pretty simple to do. So we're going to leave this menu now, and we're going to set up our reverses. So the reverse menu, make sure that if you're using a Futaba radio that you reverse channels 1 through 4, and then reverse channel 7 on this radio because you're going to want to have it set up so that right actually turns it up and left turns it down. Everything else should be normal, and that should be simple enough. So the next menu we're going to go into is the failsafe menu, and this is so important to set up because the flight controller does not have a native failsafe. You've got to set this up on your radio. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to channel 6, which is our failsafe. We're going to hold it down to make sure that we actually go from hold to failsafe. Then we're going to move over to on and make sure it's on. And this is how you set it. So you're going to, wherever this knob is, when you're holding this button down, is where it's going to save. So if I do it right now, it's going to go to -100. But I want it to toggle failsafe when it's in this position, which is active. So I'm going to hold it down, it's going to go to +100. So that means that now, if I turn my radio off, the SuperX will automatically go into failsafe. None of the other items matter on here. If you want to, you can set your throttle to 50% or one of those units just so that on the OSD you can see, but it'll show you when failsafes come up, and that's all you should really have to do as far as that goes. The final thing we're going to have to do is go into your endpoints, and all the endpoints on this radio should be just fine except for number 7, which is your gain adjustment, and you just want to change that to 30 and 30. So what that's going to do is only make it so that 30% of the throw gets done on each side. By doing that, it'll give you the correct ranges in your gain adjustment and won't be giving you some kind of crazy values there. So that is pretty much all you have to do. It's a pretty simple setup process. To check your work when you're done, you can go into the servo menu and make sure that all of the channels are moving the correct way, and that's a good way to make sure everything's looking good. And once you're finished with that, you should be ready to move on to the next step of calibrating the SuperX. So when you plug your SuperX into your computer via the USB port, it's got to be a Windows computer. And we're here inside of the SuperX folder. We have the SuperX, the log, and the configuration. Once inside the log, this X file is what you upload into the black box, and this is what will give a black box data. We'll show that in just a moment. So we're going to open up the SuperX software real quick. And here on this first page is your gains. These gains I recommend keeping at around 1.0 for most setups. If you have a heavier lift copter like an octocopter or hexacopter with some power on it, I would recommend maybe bumping those yaw and height fields down to around 0.8, but otherwise than that you should be just fine. So here we're inside of the return to home function. This will show you what happens when you flip your safe mode. You can return to home with the head facing away from you, the tail coming towards you. You can return to home with the head facing towards you or the tail facing away. You can have it hover in place as soon as the return to home gets activated, or you can have it set up so that it will go and land when that happens. Down below here you can also see that the height can be set here between 5 and 50 meters. Whatever you type into that box is how high it will return to home, and that height is relative to your starting position. So if you take off and fly to a different place, that will change. So this is the different profiles. You can see that I have a basic version, so some of these are grayed out. So I have the quadcopter, quadcopter plus, X, and scope profile. You're going to want to be able to choose your normal ESCs for almost every application. There are very few Ultra PWM ESCs out there, so make sure you do select that one. You can see here that with these different profiles, that will just change the way the copter goes. All of those different profiles should be fine, just as long as you choose the correct one. This is the gimbal function, and this is for servo gimbals. This does not control the Stella, so you don't really need to look at that too much. And then here in the OSD, you're going to have a choice between AV1 or AV2. You can see that on the OSD. If you're in the US, make sure that you choose NTSC. This will allow you to choose your battery alarm on the OSD. It'll show low battery when it hits that cutoff voltage. You can edit that voltage by typing in some different values inside of there, which makes it a little bit easier to know when it's time to come home and land. You just choose the battery type, and it's fairly simple to set up. And the final thing here is to choose the attitude line style. So on the OSD, you can see a attitude indicator. If you have a brushless gimbal, choose gimbal style. If you have a fixed mount camera, choose FPV style. It's just going to change the way the horizon bar works. And finally, the About tab. This is your SuperX ID here. If you ever need to upgrade your unit or you have trouble, that's the one you're going to send to us. This upgrade button does not work currently since we've changed our site over, so that's just something to keep in mind. This will show you your copter type if you have a basic, standard, or pro. It'll show you your firmware version, how long you have flown the quad. This is one we just set up, so it hadn't been flown too much. And that's really about it. Setting up this thing is extremely simple, and if you just follow these few steps, you should be up in the air and flying really quickly. So when calibrating the SuperX, there are 3 steps you need to do. The first one is to calibrate where your mid-stick's going to be. The second one is going to be to do what we call reverse throttle calibration, where we're going to move our sticks to the top and calibrate to let the controller know what the max ranges are. And the third one is going to be the GPS compass calibration, but we're going to have to go outside to do that. Doing a GPS compass calibration inside, there's usually a lot of magnetic interference inside and things like that that will interfere with doing that and can cause some errors. So always best to do that outside. So the first one we're going to do is this mid-stick calibration. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the quad in, and I will let you see the light here. So once this is on, you can see that I have my safe mode enabled, so I'm getting these double red flashes. If I turn safe mode off, now it's going to go into the flight mode. So right now I'm in manual mode, which is a fast green flash. You'll have attitude mode, which is a slow green flash at the middle position, and fully forward is going to give us GPS mode. And here you can see it's flashing red and green. That means that I do not have a GPS lock right now, so it's actually reverting into attitude mode. Anytime it has less than 7 satellites, it's going to do that. So the first calibration we're going to do, I'm going to fast toggle my flight mode switch and we're going to wait until we get a flashing red and green, and then I'm going to move my throttle stick to the center position. And you'll see it gives you this double flash, and I'm going to toggle it once again, and it's going to turn solid green, and now I have taught it where my center stick is. So to save it, you unplug and plug in again. Now the next calibration we're going to do is our reverse throttle calibration. So again, we're going to fast toggle the mode. We're going to move our stick all the way to the top until we get the double green flash. And then we're going to move our sticks to the top right. And then toggle the mode again. So now we've told it where our center sticks are, and we have told it where our main sticks are. So although we have not calibrated yet, I'm going to show you that the motors should arm here. And if they don't, I'll tell you why, and I'll show you how to fix it. So to arm the motors on the SuperX, you simply pull down, and if you notice, it didn't work. So the reason it didn't work is because the SuperX doesn't think that my throttle position right now is low enough to arm the motors. So usually what I have to do is knock it down a couple notches on the trim of your throttle channel if you don't have an arm, and magically they start up. So that's something to always keep in mind, is to make sure that if you don't get them to start up correctly and everything else seems to be working correctly, it's more than likely that issue. Sometimes you're going to find that this light in GPS mode will be yellow, or it'll appear to be yellow, and this is actually a magnetized tip screwdriver here. So you'll notice when I put it on, it'll turn yellow. So all that is if you get magnetic interference, it's going to show you that yellow light. The only thing that's going to really affect is the accuracy of your direction. With the newest firmware that we released, it set it up so that this actually will fly regardless of any kind of magnetic interference. So with the GPS alone, it'll be just fine, which is kind of an awesome feature. No flyaways.
Yep.
So the final calibration step is to do what we call the calibration dance here. So what we're going to do is fast toggle our flight mode switch. We're going to wait for that to give us the confirmation that it has accepted it. Make sure your throttle is in the lowest position. Once that's done, we're going to flip it one more time. It's going to turn solid green. So from there, all we've got to do, the first step is we're going to rotate it on this axis here, and we're going to spin until we get a slow flashing green light. That's very, very important. It usually takes a couple spins, so you see I got it there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick it up on its head, grab one of the arms there, and we're going to spin again. And again, we need to go until we get a slow flashing green light. And there we have it. So now we're going to do the final spin. We're going to put it right here, and we're going to spin around. And this time, you're going to wait until you get a solid green. And it's going to flicker a little bit a couple times around, but you really want it to be a solid green, as I have here. Once that's done, put it on the ground, unplug it, plug it back in, and you should be good to go. There we go. It looks like everything took. I still don't have a GPS lock, but it should fly just fine. There you have it. So here we are inside of our black box. We're going to show you how to do it. So the first thing you're going to do is choose your Xlog file from on your unit. You're going to click Upload. You're going to go to log.XAircraft.com to get to this screen right here. Once it's finished uploading, it'll take just a moment, and it'll bring you to this first screen. And this will show you the flight you want to have. So if you look in the top right corner here next to flights, I'm going to click on it now, you're going to see this is every flight you take. So every time you start your motors, it's going to bring one of these up. So we'll go ahead and load this one in. It'll tell you your flight time and also show you a GPS map of where you were. It'll give you basic information about the flight you were going at, and this is frame by frame, every data point it takes. It'll show you the different items on the menu there. So here I'm showing you the attitude angle, the attitude rate, position and movement. It'll show you your inputs across all units. So here we're going to go and look at the actual report, and this is kind of an in-depth report with graphs for every flight you take. So as this loads up, so this first screen here will show you the maximums and minimums and averages for some kind of important info there. This right here will show you the flight mode you're on. This one here will show you what your remote control inputs were for your throttle, your rudder, etc. The attitude indicator here will show you the angle and degrees of your copter leaning during the time. The gyro angle rate will show you how your copter was changing during the course of the flight.
This height graph will show you how high the copter was flying. Here I was actually flying down a hill, so it was showing a little lower than normal. The accuracy of GPS and position will show you more accurate as you get better GPS locks. And this voltage will show you the voltage drop across the flight. The motor output's an important graph here. This is one you're going to show how your output of your motors were over the course of a flight. You want to see those as close together as possible. Your vibration should be a little below 0.5 and you're fine. And the heading and terrestrial magnetism there should always be as close as possible with the red and blue line. So here on the screen you can speed up, you can slow down, you can pause. At any point you can see much of the information you can see on that other screen. But the black box is a great tool for being able to diagnose things. And be sure to download our black box tutorial on our website.